everyone, welcome back to the May Mini Quilt by Kimberbell. I'm Chris of My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop, and I'm here to be your instructor today to take you through the next step of the process. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about this beautiful butterfly block. You see the butterfly in the center, and we're using a little mylar applique going on here, and we also have two beautiful flowers on the side. Now, one of the things that it happens with this block is that it is a larger block, and some of you out there may not have the larger hoops. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to those of you who have a smaller hoop size, specifically a 5x7 hoop. We're going to actually be able to now do this block with two different hoopings. And if you take a look at the instructions found in your PDF file, you will note that it has the instructions on how to do it with an 8x12 size. However, if you've got a smaller hoop, then it actually directs you to go to another part of the PDF, which are separate instructions on how to do it in multiple hoopings. So that's what this video is going to cover, is how do we do that in two hoopings so that it looks seamless. It looks like we had the larger hoop size. However, we didn't, and Kimberbell has made it very easy, step by step, on how to do just that. So what I want you to refer to is to find the separate file in your PDF download as to where those instructions can be found. Again, it's specifically for the 5x7 hoop. So let's take a look at those instructions. I got them right here in front of me, and you'll notice that at the very top, it is in yellow, that says that the 8x12 hooping instructions are found in the main quilt instructions. So again, it's just another reminder that what you're about to embark on are the instructions for the 5x7 hoop. It has all of our same requirements for the fabrics, none of that changes, but let's take a closer look at this instruction right here. This is for clear blue tiles quilting instructions. Now, if you remember, all of our other blocks have been done with the block by block quilting method, which means that there's a seam allowance built into it. However, with doing multiple hoopings on one block, we aren't able to do block by block. So this time we have to go to the clear blue tiles quilting instructions, which are also found in your download, and we're going to use a little bit different method in order to get our background quilting. So on this one, it says that the sample was made using KDQ 251 Spring 4. And so I'm going to bring that up and follow those instructions on how to do that. But let's take a closer look at this instruction. It says to follow the clear blue tiles method to quilt the entire background before adding the applique embroidery. And after quilting, then we go to the part A, hooping instructions, which is right below. All right, so again, this is very different from what we've done in previous blocks because this one is a large block, but we're going to do it in two hoopings. So the first thing we need to do and get out of the way is doing the clear blue tiles method. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to treat our background fabric just like if it were the top of a quilt. And we have a layer of batting right underneath. Now, if we wanted to, we could also add another layer of fabric, or we could add another piece of stabilizer if we wanted to underneath it. I'm going to go ahead and just keep the top as it is. I've used a little 505 spray adhesive underneath it to adhere it to the batting. Then I'm going to take my Kimberbell paper tape and just tape in a few spots, again, just to hold it down nice and tight. Now, you're going to notice something else here, and that is that my background is actually cut out much larger than I need it to be because we square it up later. But I want to make sure and point this out because this is actually 6.5 inches by 14.5 inches. Well, I actually don't have to quilt all the way to the edges here. I'm going to be able to get away with doing my 4x4 clear blue tile block 3 times across. Because the reason why I know that, let me point this out to you. I can see the trimming instructions, which are 4.5 inches by 12.5 inches. So I know that if I do a 4, 4, and a 4, the finished size will end up being 4 by 12, and that's exactly what I need it to be. My cut finish size is 4.5 by 12.5. When it goes into the project, it will end up going in those 1/4 inches. So now we can do 4 by 12. So I want to make sure and point that out because you would be wasting a lot of time and energy, right, if I were doing this 8 times to try to get through the whole thing, right? But because I know that it's going to be trimmed up to a 4.5 by 12.5 at the end, what I'm going to do is I can start in about a 1/2 inch and go this way, and this way. And I know that I'm going to be able to get it all done with my clear blue tile method. So let's go ahead and prepare this by placing our tile down. And again, I'm just kind of centering this right here between these two. And I'm going to take my little marker here and just mark my crosshairs, just like that. In addition, I'm also going to mark these little tick marks on the edge, just on the right side edge here, so that I know exactly where to place my next tile. Lift it up, match up this little tick mark to this one, and once again, mark my crosshairs. And let's do it one more time. Lift it up and bring it over here. Now, if this makes you a little nervous, you certainly can hoop it a 4th time if you wanted to. You could lift it up, do the same thing here, and you'll note that, yeah, it goes off of it, and that's perfectly okay. But I promise you this is going to be trimmed up, so we've got plenty of room to work with here. Okay, so now that my tile has marked up my quilt, I'm actually going to hoop this in a 4x4 hoop size. And I do my very best to center this as best as I can, just visually. And then I place my top hoop in there. Notice it's struggling to get in. Don't fight with it. Just go ahead and loosen that screw a little bit. And we'll try again. See how much nicer that goes in? Much, much better. Okay, tighten that up if it's needed. And now my goal is to take it over to my embroidery machine, and I'm trying to get the needle right there in the center where those crosshairs are. So that is where I'm headed. I'm going to go over to my machine, bring up the clear blue tiles design, not the one that is block by block. Block by block, remember, would have the square around it. I don't want the square around it. This is clear blue tiles, which means it's like an overall edge to edge. So that's the file I'm looking for. Let's head over to the machine and find it. So I'm looking for the clear blue tiles KDQ 251. I'm going to go ahead and press on that and hit set and embroidery. With that done, I can push my hoop in, and let's see if we can find our center crosshairs. It may not be exact when you first begin, and so this is where you're going to move your needle position just a little bit so that you get over top of where it needs to go. So I'm going to hit layout and move. And I'm also going to use my little guide beam here to help me center this. Okay, looks like I am off just a little too much, so no problem. What I'm going to do is loosen this screw again, okay, because the machine has gone as far as it will go. I'll lift this up and just scooch it a little bit more. There we go, much closer now. Now my guide beam is directly over that center. I have white thread in, so you're not going to see it really well, but it is pretty darn cute. Okay, I'll go ahead and put my foot down and begin. Pretty easy stitch out, right? It just took a minute. And so now what I need to do is I'm going to move or shift my fabric so that the needle goes over the second crosshair that I drew earlier. So in order to do that, I'm simply going to leave my bottom hoop in the machine. I'm not even going to change that out. And I'm going to lift up the top hoop and then move it and bring it right back down. Okay, looks pretty good. I'm going to just go ahead and move my needle position up a little bit, just a couple spots, 2 or 3 spots. There we go. I like it. I like where it's located. It's right directly over my center crosshair. I'll go ahead and put my foot down and begin stitching again. Second hooping is complete. You know the drill. I'm ready to move on to the third one now. And look at that. I am dead on. Bullseye right there. Gotta love that. No need to shift that needle anywhere. Let's go ahead and put the presser foot down and begin. My third hooping is complete. Again, if I was really nervous about it, I could do a fourth hooping. I might need to add a little more fabric for the hoop to hold on to, but I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm going to be just fine with the 3 hoopings. So that's all there was to it. That's what needed to be done in order to have the background quilting across the entire background in a smaller hooping. So pretty easy, right? And the cool thing is you don't even know whether, where it started and where it ended. It all goes seamlessly together, and that is the beauty of the Kimberbell Clear Blue Tiles system. Now that my background has been quilted, it's time for me to trim it up, and I'm going to treat it just as if it were a regular piece of fabric, just my background fabric. So I'm going to trim away the excess batting. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape that I put on earlier, and in order to save on my tape, I'll just go ahead and place that to the side. Now you're going to notice the markings. How do you get rid of those? Well, it's very simple. All you need is water, and I actually like to use a spray misting bottle. I like the pressure that it gives in coming out, and it just virtually wipes those markings away. Pretty cool. You don't even see them anymore. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to trim this up. So my background quilting is all complete. My background's ready to go. And if I'm taking a close look at these instructions, remember it says to go to part A, hooping instructions. So when we do that, the first thing it tells us to do is to fold the background fabric in half lengthwise with right sides together to create a center fold. I'm going to go ahead and over to the ironing station and do that, press it so that I have a marking here. And then I'm going to fold one short edge over by 2.5 inches, and I'm going to create that pressed fold there as well. From that point, I will then go ahead and put the cutaway stabilizer inside the 5x7 hoop, and it will start to stitch out some placement lines of where to line those folds up. We're going to go ahead and fold this over, give it a nice press. And I'm going to fold the left side over by 2.5 inches. So to know exactly where I need to be, I will just use my little ruler here to help me with that. Okay, 2.5 inches. Let's double check here. Perfect. And do another press. So you can see I now have my 2 markings. Remember that this is going to be in 2 different hoopings. So there's actually 2 different files that we will be pulling at 2 different times. The first one is going to be the 5x7 part A butterfly. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up right here. And you'll notice it is simply the flower and the butterfly all on their own. The second hooping will include the additional flower. I'll hit set and embroidery. You'll notice that in this first box, there's just a little placement line with a little tick mark. So what you want to do is you want to hoop your light mesh cutaway stabilizer all on its own inside the 5x7 hoop. I'm going to place it into the machine, foot down, and begin. Now let's refer back to the instructions here, where it shows us that in this first picture right here, we have the little tick mark, and then it has a diagram as to how to place our fabric here, where we're going to line the center fold that we did earlier, right up here against the center tick mark, and we're going to align the bottom fold with the bottom placement line. So pretty simple. I'm going to place it just like this. Again, center and bottom fold. And now it just sits just like that. And then it asks us to go ahead and put a little bit of paper tape here, just for good measure. All right, feeling good about that. I'll take it back to the machine, and it's going to do the tack down stitch of this piece of fabric. Now, it will be a basting stitch. Don't worry, it's going to be cut out later. So they're bigger stitches, and again, it's just to hold it in place right now to be removed after it's all done. It's now time for the placement of the flowers. So I'll go ahead and begin, and this is just going to show me where my flower petals are going to go. And here we'll be able to place one piece of fabric over top of both of those areas and stitch them both out at the same time. And with the help of my Kimberbell little snips here, I'll go ahead and begin to just trim the excess fabric away from here. Now we'll take it back to the machine and finish up the applique. that our first flower is done, it's time to complete that beautiful butterfly. We're going to do the regular steps of applique. You know what they are. We're first going to have a placement line. It's going to show us exactly where to put our fabric. Then it will do the tack down stitch to hold it down. We'll trim it up, and then it will do some kind of decorative or satin stitch around the edges. So we'll go ahead and continue that butterfly just as we would normally, but there's only one little difference, and that is this time we're going to take a moment to add a little bit of shimmer to that butterfly by adding the mylar applique over top. So pay close attention to that. And again, it's just like we would normally do with a simple applique. So don't let it throw you off by adding that mylar. It really is a lot of fun, and it makes a huge difference. So here's where the mylar now goes on. It just goes on right over top of that pink. And I'm going to place it there, but I'm also going to use a little bit of tape just to hold it in place. Now that the mylar has been stitched down, I can go ahead and remove the mylar just like this. And then I'm going to change my thread color back to that beautiful plum color of my fabric. And it will do the rest of the stitching for the body as well as around the wings. Our flower and butterfly have both stitched out, and they are looking pretty. It is time to do our final step of the stitch out, and that is the placement lines for being able to connect the two hoopings together. So make sure you choose a thread color that is very visible so that it shows against the background fabric. So on my sample here, I'm using a black. And I'm just going to go ahead, put my presser foot down, stitch it out, and now I will know how to connect my final stitch out with this one. And there we go. The first hooping is all done, and now it's time to move on to the second hooping. So all you have to do is just pop it out of the hoop, and then I'll show you what takes place next. Go ahead and remove your basting stitches at this time. I'm also going to go ahead and cut the stabilizer up towards the design. All right, now make sure you don't remove those stitches. Those ones are, again, to be able to connect the design in the second hooping. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside for just a moment. I'll take my second hooping, and in the hoop I'm going to put the cutaway stabilizer in it and just let it be on its own. There we go. And now I'm going to take this back over to the machine, and this time I'm going to pull up part B of the design. And what it's going to do is it's going to stitch out some little tick marks as to how to connect this hooping to the first hooping. So we're pulling up KD 5130 5x7. And this is part B. I'll hit set and embroidery. You're going to notice here on the screen that these are the little placement lines for where we're going to make the connection. So be sure that you're using a thread color that shows up well. At this point, you're going to want to flip the hoop over, and we're going to use the help of a couple of flat thumbtacks that you see right here in my hand. And what you want to do is place the thumbtack directly into the corner of these little markings, just like that, pushing it down into it. Again, I'm coming from the back side. With those tacks there, what you'll want to do is take a piece of paper tape and just carefully place it over the top of the heads of those tacks. Okay, and now we can flip it back over. And you see that we've got these little 2 tacks sticking straight up. And that is exactly what we want, because I'm now ready to add the block to this. And in order to do that, I'm going to have my first flower and the butterfly towards the bottom. And I'm just going to bring right sides together like that. And I'm looking for these 2 registration marks, the little corners that were stitched earlier. And my goal here is to get the corner of that registration mark to go through this tack right here. So you can do it a couple different ways. I usually just like to feel for it. That's a little bit easier for me, but if you just like to bring it back and forth and take a look that way, you certainly could. And maybe you'll do a little bit of both, right? There we go. Perfect. That goes right into there. And I just need to do the second one. Bring this close as I can. Flip it over. Feel it around. Nope, that's not where I want it. But we got this. There we go. Bingo. Right there. All right. Looks perfect. So with this now aligned, what I'm going to do is take my paper tape and just hold this in place with that tape. And I'm going to just tape around the different edges. Okay. Just like that. Now that that's been taped in the exact place it needs to be, I do need to remove the tacks before I take it back to the machine. So I will carefully turn this around on the other side and then just simply remove the tape and the tack, just like that. And there we go. Not too bad, right? So now that you have the second hooping placed, the rest is a piece of cake. I mean, all we have to do is finish the applique, and it's the same flower as we did before, using a few different fabrics, but it's the exact same technique. So now that this block has been put together, how bad was that, right? It was so simple, very easy. And thanks to Kimberbell and their amazing team, that's what made it possible for us to be able to do a larger size block with smaller size hoops. It really isn't too scary after all. Thank you, Kimberbell. Is now complete, and as you can see, I've already gone ahead and removed all of the basting stitches and the registration marks, just simply with the seam ripper. Now it's time to trim this block up, and it's kind of a unique way of doing so. So let's take you step by step on how to do that. I'll go ahead and place my block on my rotating mat, and this is one of the things that I highly recommend that you have. I have found to have the most success when using orange pop rulers when I use it in conjunction with a rotating mat. It can be a game changer for sure. The first thing I'm going to do is pull out my rectangle orange pop rulers. There's a square set and a rectangle set, and I'm going to center this on the block. Now, if you're wondering where exactly is the centering mark, you're going to line up the center arrows right through the butterfly. Okay, And you're going to be able to go, all right, I'm about an inch above, about an inch below. If you want to pull out a ruler, you certainly could, but I am just going to eyeball this, and this looks pretty good to me. Okay, so my center is placed. Now I'm going to take my next size of orange pop ruler and place it just over top of that. And I'm going to do it yet once again with my largest size orange pop ruler. And I'm going to place it right there. Okay, so I have them all nestled together right here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take my rotary cutter, and I only want to trim on the bottom and the top. You do not want to trim on the sides quite yet. And this is outlined in your instruction manual as well, so just pay close attention to that. As you cut, again, we're just trimming here and here. And the nice thing is that our rotary cutter can go right into those extended channels, just like that. Okay, so I've done one cut. I'm going to rotate this around and do my second cut. Again, just placing that rotary cutter right in those channels. Okay, and there we have it. Now, at this point, I'm not even going to remove any of my orange pop rulers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim from this side and from this side, so left and right, along the outermost orange pop ruler. That's trimmed up. Let's do it again. And there we go. So just take your time. You'll be able to get it. Let's see how this turned out. Okay. Oh, there we go. Something else happened, and I'm so glad it did, so I could show you what to do next. If you're thinking you're finished, you're not quite finished yet. All right, so you see it's not cut all the way to the ends. Well, this is where we're going to take our ruler, just a regular ruler, and we're going to extend that cut from where we left off all the way to the very end. My block has been completed. It's all ready to fit into my quilt. Isn't it cute? So there you have it. The May mini quilt is all finished. And I cannot wait to see the photos that you share with all of us so that we can see how your mini quilt came together. Now, please remember, if you run into any questions at all, we're always happy to help. Please reach out to us at mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com. We'll do what we can to help you out. But it really is a very fun and simple way of putting something together rather quickly when you consider a little mini quilt. Pretty fun. And the great thing is you're learning so many fun techniques at the same time. I love it. So this is one of the many reasons why I love the Kimberbell mini quilts, and I hope you are too. Be sure and tag us on social media with the hashtag #MyGirlfriendsQuiltShop, as well as tag Kimberbell. They're the ones who put together this beautiful design for us to make. So you can hashtag Kimberbell Designs, and we'll be able to follow and see what you're making. All right, and I should also mention that if you would like to purchase the mini quilts, January through June, it all comes together in one CD. You can find it at mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com, and while you're at it, you might want to pick up a kit or two as well. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. Cannot wait to see how you make yours, and we hope to see you real soon.